Hi, Shabbat Shalom, or almost Shabbat Shalom. Hope you're not too wet and cold in this wintry weather we have here. I want to tell you a little story about miracles. Now, I'm not really sure all the time, or most of the time, that I believe in miracles, but I've come to believe that if you keep your eyes out for looking for them, you can see some miracles in this modern world of ours. And one of them that I saw, just reading yesterday or the day before online, was actually a radio story from National Public Radio in the U.S. My wife had heard it online and audio, but I read it in an article. And the author, Francesca Paris, the journalist, she describes this this story in a powerful way. In the Caribbean, there's a big cruise ship, Empress of the Seas, Royal Caribbean International cruise company with many brands and dozens of ships. This is one of the big ones, not huge, but probably 3,000, 4,000 people on it. Encounters two fishermen stranded at sea and saves them. Now, the reason this is a miracle story is these fishermen had been adrift for nearly 3 weeks by the time the Empress of the Seas ship spotted their signal light. They were halfway between Grand Cayman and Jamaica. And the other reason this is a miracle story is that big ship wasn't even supposed to be there on its original itinerary. It had changed its itinerary because of a weather problem. So there's the story got out there because the chief meteorologist for Royal Caribbean, and his name is James Van Fleet. By the way, James Van Fleet is probably the best name I've ever heard for a ship company executive. But he tweeted out, he said, "I don't know about you, but I've already seen a Christmas miracle." Now, in Judaism we have Hanukkah miracles, a famous one, but there are Christmas miracles talked about in broader society as well. So these fishermen became stranded earlier this month. They fell asleep while soaking their nets, and this guy said this is pretty not out of the ordinary. It's pretty common. And by the time they woke up, they had drifted away from their gear, and when they tried to get back to their stuff, they ran out of gas. So then they were drifting in the Caribbean. And here's where it connects to the Hanukkah miracle. They only had food and water enough for 7 days. Okay? But they floated for 20 days in the Caribbean, and they were still alive when they were found. Now the cruise ship, I said it changed their course. They were originally supposed to go to Cienfuegos in Cuba. Some of our congregants are in Cuba right now on vacation. But if they landed in Cienfuegos or near Cienfuegos, they would have had to send tenders with the passengers. Those are the little boats. They're like the rescue boats, and they take passengers to the port if the ship can't go all the way to the port. But with the wind, they didn't want to do the tenders, so they decided to go somewhere else instead, to Ocho Rios, hundreds of kilometers off course, to go to this other port for the passengers to have a day somewhere. But because they changed course so much, they ended up seeing these two fishermen with their light. Pretty amazing. And really, I think a miracle if we're open to seeing it. They even contacted local search and rescue centers in Grand Cayman and Jamaica, but none of them were able to help, so the cruise ship did it themselves. They lowered a tender down to rescue them. One of the fishermen could no longer walk. They had to carry him onto the small rescue boat. They gave him medical attention. By the time they got to Jamaica, I think just a day later, the fishermen were able to walk off the boat themselves and into a medical center on land. The crew even collected $300, probably from their fellow crew, maybe from passengers, to help them with clothes and food on shore. So amazing story. And what it makes me think of in our parsha this week, you knew there was a connection, is that we've been reading about Joseph and his brothers for weeks now. But now, in the beginning of Parashat Shemot, the very beginning, we read about Jacob and all of his 70 total family members who come down to Egypt. Why did they come down to Egypt? Because Joseph was there, and he brought them down. He's number 2 in charge of the biggest empire in the world, Egypt. Why was Joseph there in this big position? Because he had been sold down as a slave by his brothers, who had tossed him in a well and almost killed him when they were not so nice to him when he had that Technicolor dream coat. So Joseph gets sold down to slavery. Then he ends up becoming almost the head of Egypt. Then he brings his family to Egypt. And after all that, because we were down in Egypt, then we got the Exodus story of leaving Egypt, which is the main master narrative of our whole people. So these things sometimes seem to fit together into a puzzle, these many pieces of the puzzle, to make things work out all right. And for these two fishermen, a large cruise ship diverting course because of some wind in Cuba and heading to Jamaica instead meant that they were rescued after 3 weeks at sea. So really a yasher koach to those crew on that ship who saved them. And I'm very glad those fishermen are safe and healthy now. And I wish you all a good, happy New Year. Hope you've had a good week. And I'll see you at Shul on Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.